Pause it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Luster.
And I'm Sarah Luster. This is episode 2 of the Luster Leadership Series. This series explores AEC industry trends, highlighting the voices of industry leaders, and examining how COVID-19 has impacted jobs and the workplace.
Today, we are speaking to two members of the AEC industry and of the same family, Kathy Masters and her niece, Natalie Lyne. Kathy Masters has been an engineer for over 35 years, spending over 14 years working at the largest airport in the US, in Atlanta, and specializes in aviation. Kathy currently works with Luster National and brings her vast expertise and leadership capabilities to bear on the Georgia Department of Transportation's $14 billion major mobility investment project, the country's single largest transportation program. That's really cool.
Yeah, and Natalie graduated from UNC Charlotte last May with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and has started her career in August working for RS&H as an aviation engineering associate.
Thank you so much, you two, for joining us. It's great to have you on. And let's just jump in. Here's when Kathy became an engineer in the 80s, fewer than 5% of engineers were women. That number has grown very slowly. And as Natalie joined the workforce a few years ago or last year, only 13% of engineers today are women. So Kathy, first question to you, why did you choose engineering?
The thing that really drew me to it was to be a part of creating things. I love to make things. That was kind of my initial draw. Once I got into it, I found out I was a natural born project manager. And so it just really fit my personality. But the first draw was just to work on a team and make things and create things and be able to say, yeah, I helped build that.
And Natalie, to ask you the same question, why engineering? How, if at all, has your aunt influenced your career path?
So I chose engineering, I think a lot starting with problem solving. I like problem solving and I like to think things through like fully, like how is it, you start with one problem and then it creates all these other questions. And then I like the process of thinking through that. And I think that engineering is not something I even would have ever considered if I didn't see my aunt doing it and knowing that it is possible for a woman to do it and to be really good at it and be as successful as she was. I always thought that I would just take a more general path like business or something like that. But then as I looked more into it, I think engineering really fit my personality and it might even be in my genetics a little bit.
Yeah, it's great that you have Kathy as a role model. That's wonderful.
And as an influence, right? So she said something earlier when not on screen that said you were looking at business and then you said, try engineering. Try something harder.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation with Kathy and her husband, Mike, and they were like, just pick the hardest thing and just go for it, and see that where that takes you. And I was like, I always counted engineering out because I was like, oh, that's really hard. That's for really smart people. But really, at the end of the day, it's just more of like what you're good at, like how your brain is wired. So.
So, we are thinking about this, especially in terms of how few women are in engineering, which is strange. It's really been it's not like other industries that there's been a bigger influx. I mean, it's really small number still of women. So what's it like being a woman in a predominantly male industry? And are there challenges unique to becoming a female engineer? And either of you can answer that.
What's it been like for you, Natalie? Because I haven't caught up with you on, your 6 months in. Are you very aware everywhere you go that you're the only female? And
I think that in some realms it is. Like when I'm working in the field, I'm on a construction site with 30, 40 people and I'm the only female there, which is in some ways you kind of feel the spotlight on you just because you almost feel or I almost feel the need to prove myself. And that also could just be because I'm young and I'm, new to the project and everybody else has been on this project for years. Or, like in the office, I'm the only one in my group in the Charlotte office, the only female in the engineering side of aviation. But I don't, on the design side, it's not as prevalent to me, because it's more organized versus, and I mean, I haven't gone to work in the office yet. We've been completely remote since I started, which is totally weird. But yeah, I think like coming out and being in the field, like I am this week, it's definitely something that is very obvious. So.
And I always found it, it's a double-edged sword. It makes you memorable, which if you do well is great. If you mess something up, you can't hide it, but you do have to. I always felt like I had to prove that I belonged there. Right. Design was the best because design engineers, it's all about the solution. It's all about the problem solving, and people get very engaged and very, focused on the issue or the problem. And they don't really pay any attention to, what you look like, or, it's the diversity of thought, and it's about the idea. In the field is where you really, I think construction in general is a very harsh environment. Men tell me that. I mean, the young guys I knew back in the day, and even now, it's a very, it's a frat boy kind of environment. People play pranks on each other, and it's just, and if you roll with it and you laugh at it, then, but you have to kind of get over yourself and just.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, you've done a good job getting over yourself, Kathy. You're very, very successful. So whatever you've done, obviously you've done it well. And have you found are there tactics for supporting each other that you've found, like women supporting women, or, are there organizations or that you find yourself attracted to?
Yeah, I've usually, for me, it's always been kind of the buddy system. If you show up, and there's another female, you have a buddy. I got your back, you got my back. But I have to say too, I mean, there's a lot of great men in the industry. I mean, I've had just fabulous men who are like, come on, I'm going to teach you everything. It's that's part of the get over yourself. It's really, if you give people a chance, it's intimidating more to you than because of what other people are doing.
Excellent. Great answers.
Yeah, and kind of bouncing off the last question. So for all the young women listening to this, if there are any, what advice would you both give women who are interested in pursuing a career in engineering or any of the architecture or construction?
I would say be confident in yourself. I mean, even starting in college, like you're obviously going to be in the minority. You're going to walk into a classroom and there's going to be a lot more guys in there, but be confident. And then feeding off like what Kathy said, find a buddy. If there's another female in the class, like partner up. And yeah, just don't be deterred. And, most men in the industry are excited to have women working alongside them, and they should be, because there's a lot of things that we have to add. So I think most men are accepting, and if you come across someone that's not, don't let that deter you. Just ignore that person, because he's not contributing anything good.
Yeah, that's great advice, definitely. And Kathy, do you have any advice that you would give to young women?
Yeah, I think like I said to Natalie, if you're smart and you like math and you like problem solving, try something hard. which is,
Mhm.
and engineering, what's really hard is the volume of what you have to learn, and it really retrains your brain and how to think. It's not like it's hard because you can't do it.
Mhm.
It's just, it takes a lot of work, but it's extremely rewarding. And it's like Natalie said too, I mean, there's a lot of people. When I worked on a GDOT survey crew when I was still in college, there were some crews that there were two crews that always wanted me on their team, and then there was another crew and they didn't want me. And the two that wanted me, one of the reasons they wanted me is because all the guys were nicer and more polite and cussed less if I was there. And so,
Oh,
and the other one, so you just ignore the ones that don't want you, but there's plenty of people who, and we had a lot of fun. I learned a lot, especially back then, because we didn't have all the technology you have now. But and it's great what you can do with engineering. It's so much more than what people think it is. I mean, you can do sales, so much. Women have people skills, and engineering really, really, really needs the people skills. So everybody should try it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. And do either of you, have any ideas how engineering firms or AEC firms could attract more women? Yeah, just kind of getting more representation into that industry.
I think the examples, they need to see people, they need to see women doing it.
just like
and
this.
it's kind of, it's like yeah, it's like any minority, if you, or any person, if you can't see yourself in the job, then you're not going to think it's possible.
Right.
Yeah, I think like going to a lot of career fairs in college, like when booths have females there as well, as instead of just like two old guys standing there, it's more enticing for like the young females to approach the booth, and it just seems more approachable just because it's friendly.
Good.
So
yeah, that makes sense. If you can see someone who reminds you of yourself working a job, it definitely seems possible, and you're probably more attracted to it. Yeah, so that's a really great point.
So we also wanted to kind of touch on COVID, which has really changed the way we work. And in Natalie's case, she hasn't really seen what it's like to work outside of COVID, at least with her current position. But we've been asking this question because it's so front of mind right now. How has COVID changed the way you work? And what we love to do is, and we've been doing this in our family, is give us your roses and your thorns and your buds, meaning, the things you liked and you're going to take away, the things that were really difficult, and then what you look forward to in the future. And you start with Kathy.
Yeah, actually, Mike and I have this joke. My husband, he'll say, "So how's your COVID experience been so far?" And I'd have to say, in general, it's been pretty good. Work-wise, the timing for what I was doing, which was writing contracts with people, actually, I mean, some people in London and some in Australia, New York, Texas, the timing was perfect. So I started working more hours, but we started getting stuff done like crazy. So over the past year, we've accomplished so much that I don't think there's any way we could have done it if we hadn't been virtual. And I love spending time with my husband, my dog, being kind of semi outside because I'm home. But I really miss people. I miss the office environment. I'm a hugger too. I really miss hugging people.
I do too. And would you, on the bud side of things, do you think you're going to keep some of these when COVID, we start going back to whatever the new normal is? do you feel like there are some things that you're going to take with you and you're going to have business as a new usual?
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I really realized, it's like a year, once I was home for 2 weeks, I had this sense of relaxation, and I realized I had this chronic case of fear of missing out. And all of a sudden, I wasn't missing out on anything. And what I've realized is that's a choice. I can choose to not have FOMO, and I'm so totally into that. And hopefully work from home some. The company I work for is I'm in their office, not Luster. Luster is very new school. The office environment is very kind of old school. So we'll see how much they let us work from home. But
what about you, Natalie?
So for me, the hardest part was graduating during COVID, because it was like we packed up our thing and we were, quite literally, I walked out of a class at like 4:15 on a Thursday, and they were like, everybody off campus, and that was the last time I saw some of my peers, like maybe ever. Wow. So that was kind of crappy, and like just not having an actual graduation ceremony, it just kind of feels like there was no closing of that chapter. It just kind of like flowed into. But I was really fortunate because I interned for my company before I started, 2 summers before I started. So I knew everybody before starting working remotely. So that's been nice. And I think something that's been really cool is I've done a lot of work for other offices remotely, and I don't feel disconnected. I feel like I'm part of the team, even though I'm working with the Tampa group or the Jacksonville group from Charlotte. I don't feel disconnected because nobody's together. So that's been pretty cool. So that's, I think, learning the skills to work collaboratively over long distances is something that's been kind of forced, but it's definitely something that I'll take away, is that it's it's not the worst thing in the world. And also, just being home with my dog and being able to like go for a walk during lunch break is nice. And I know our company, at least starting out, is going to give the option to kind of make a slow transition and work from home 2 or 3 days a week, which is good, because I know that especially for people with families, it relieves a burden for them and allows people to have more family time. And I think it's also like, I feel like I almost probably would work longer hours at home or work more, just because I don't feel the need to pack up at 5 o'clock. It's like if I'm in the middle of something, I'll go ahead and finish it, because it takes away that 30-minute commute, or, I can take a break and go get some dinner and then come back and finish what I was working on, instead of feeling like, packing up and then just shutting it down for the day, just in a rush to get home for food or whatever.
That's great. Yeah, that's really good. I think we're all getting a different kind of work, maybe more, but sometimes it's just really different. And then maybe life balance, but isolation. So I definitely get the FOMO thing. And for me personally, that bud is the hugs. I really am looking forward to hugs. And that piece with, the future, kind of looking at vaccinations and et cetera, that's my favorite thing, is to start hugging people again when you see them, and this whole, this thing. And it's just, and hard to see people's faces with masks. I don't think they're going away for a while, but it's nice to really see people and feel their energy. So anything else that you want to add to the COVID or any other part of this interview? No? We're just so grateful the two of you are here, and you provided really great insight, especially as women and engineers, but a family, and just this dynamic has been really fun. And one of our COVID roses is getting the opportunity to speak with inspirational women like you, and inspiration.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for talking with us.
We so appreciate this interview, and we will see you all hopefully in person in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much.